So it is officially the second episode of Mix then. And I have another guest with me. Her name's Alex. Actually, probably a good thing to mention is how we actually connected, because we don't really know each other at all, do we?
Yeah, no.
So it's pretty random, to be honest with you. So we connected through social media because you were supporting Black Lives Matter quite well, and you was putting your views and thoughts out there in a positive way. And then through social media, we've kind of connected with the stuff that I'm doing, the stuff that you're doing, and you've got quite an interesting story as well to tell. So Alex, tell me a bit about yourself.
So I'm from Stockport, which is in Manchester. And my background is my granddad was from Barbados, so my mum's mum. And her mum was from Ireland, so my mum's half black, half white. And then I have a white father, so I'm quarter black.
Okay.
I know you won't be able to tell by my skin, but I think you can always tell by my hair when I've got it out.
So then, what made you then want to tell your story?
I think in like the race conversation, a lot of pale skin mixed race people are kind of like underrepresented in the conversation, and also pale mixed race women are very underrepresented because a lot of the time it's black men talking about their experiences or mixed race men talking about their experiences. But I think a lot of the time you never see a person as pale as me talking about their black experience because people assume they don't experience racism or anything like that. So
why do you think it excludes specifically pale skinned people then?
I think a lot of people like think that the racism stems from the color of the skin, but it's also like, because obviously I have the black hair, I think, so I got bullied a lot for my hair at school. So it's kind of like we get excluded because we're not dark, but I think there's still other features on people that they get bullied for that are part of their black heritage.
Yeah.
And
Do you get excluded from both sides then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other day, actually, I was on, I commented on someone's post. It wasn't even about relation to anything about race.
Yeah.
And it was actually a black guy who made the post, and he ended up like commenting, calling me a little white girl. And I proceeded to say, like, I'm mixed race, I'm not white. And he said, he's American. And he said, oh, because you're from Britain and you're that pale, in America you will be white. And I feel like a lot of people dismiss the fact that you do get pale mixed race people and we are still part black.
So interesting question for you then. So would you consider yourself a black woman?
I would consider myself a black woman because I do have black in me. And I think as a child, I kind of dismissed my black heritage more because I wanted to be like everyone else because I'm from a white area. But I think as I've grown older, I've become more proud of my culture, and it's quite a unique culture because I don't know anyone else apart from my family whose family are from Barbados. So I think it's quite a unique culture in that way.
Yeah, man. Yeah. But babe, I know quite a few friends that their families are from Barbados, so I know the accent. I can't do the accent really well, but the accent I always describe as kind of drunken Irish accent. It's got a bit of Irish in there, so it all sounds a bit Irish. What was your experience then of your area growing up? So you said it was Stockport.
Yeah.
Have you always lived in the same area?
Yes, I've lived in the same house all my life.
Okay.
I think growing up in this area, obviously as a child I didn't know any different because I think a lot of children don't really look at obviously the race and they just want to be friends with people. But a lot of the time, like I was looking at statistics for like Stockport and like what the statistics are for like how many mixed race people live in Stockport. And I looked and it actually said in the 2011 census, the white and black Caribbean mixed household population was actually 0.6% of Stockport. I think the majority of Stockport, I think it's like 92% is white.
Wow.
So we're a very small minority of ethnic minorities in Stockport.
You'd almost be the token. You'd almost be the token person.
Exactly. Yeah, I think there's only like 3 black families in the area that I live, and one of them is us, and then the other's my auntie.
Oh,
And
right.
then,
Okay.
yeah, it's just crazy. Like,
Was that the same in school then?
yeah,
So, yeah, predominantly white school.
yeah, because I went to a Catholic school.
Okay. All girls or mixed?
No, it was mixed. Primary school, I think there was only like a couple of us that were mixed. There was no black children in my year. It was just mixed race people. And then in high school, there was a few more of us, but the still majority was white, including the teachers as well.
Did you feel separated then?
Yeah, I did a lot. And I also, like I said, I kind of like denied my blackness in a way. Like I used to straighten my hair whenever I could because I wanted hair like everyone else. I wanted this long straight hair like all the other girls.
Yeah.
And I was bullied a lot for my neck as well at school, which obviously is from my African ancestors, because I think the tribe we come from, we have long necks.
Yeah.
So I used to like wear a scarf all the time as well because I used to get bullied for that. So I tried to like hide my black identity in a way, which was quite upsetting looking back on it, because now I love my hair.
Yeah. So you're 21, 20,
22.
22. Sorry, my apologies.
Okay.
So you're 22 now. So at what age? So you're saying that was in high school, yeah?
Yeah.
High school, I'm guessing you go to sixth form because you've gone to. Oh, by the way, congratulations on university.
Thank you.
You got a 2-1, right?
Yeah.
It's work, and you was 1 mark off getting a first.
Yes.
Send it back to get marked.
I might do.
Listen, it's worth it. What is it, 50 quid or whatever it is? It's worth it, man, for 1 mark. And a majority of people they tend to get it. But yeah. The reason why I bring that up, the journey from school then to sixth form, to where was this transition for you then, Alex? Where did you start to think a bit more maybe about your blackness or how things are and stuff?
I think it was more so when I started college, because when I went to college, it was actually more racially diverse, because I actually went to college in an area called Ashton.
Oh yeah, it's close to where my mum lives.
Yeah, there's a high percentage of, it's a big Asian community up in Ashton, and there's also quite a lot of black people as well in and around Ashton. So I felt like kind of more at ease, and I felt like I fitted in a bit more. Obviously, my paleness, I still kind of felt like I didn't fit in because there wasn't many mixed race people there as well. There was either like they were fully that race or they were white. Like there wasn't many mixed people. But I think I after talking to my cousins as well, like a lot of my cousins have been through a lot of like racial, a lot of racism. So I think it's just experience with other cultures really that made me want to love my culture and love my hair and love everything about me that was black. Yeah.
And you both your parents are still together, aren't they?
Yes.
And that's a good thing. So how did you ever have these conversations with your mum or dad about how you feel?
Only recently we started talking about it, really, since the Black Lives Matter movement has come up. I was talking to my mum about it, and we were saying, like, there's this stereotype of a black man leaving his family kind of thing. And my granddad actually raised all 7 kids on his own.
Wow, brilliant. Wow, so 7 kids,
Yeah, he came over from Barbados in 1956.
Oh, so he's part of yeah,
he's part of the Windrush generation. Yeah. So he came over, like, set up shop, and then he actually has 3 kids who are full Bayesian. So they have a different mum to my mum. And then he sent for them. And then my mum has a sibling that's Irish, who's her mum's child, and then she has two full sisters who both have the same both parents. And he ended up looking after all the children, even though one of the children wasn't his.
Right, so that's a strong man. That's a strong man right there, man. That is a strong man. And that was 1950s as well, which would have been tough for any black person to come across, to stand on their own 2 feet. My dad, he's from St. Vincent's, which is next to Barbados that we spoke about. So he came over when he was younger as well. So you can imagine. So there's been like a transition, hasn't there, of almost the acceptance when it comes to mixed race people or mixed or dual heritage or however you want to say it. But it's now, dare I say, a fashion now. It's more of a fashion. It's more acceptable. But during the times of your granddad and my dad, from the 50s up until now, there's been a huge transition. So you've done a bit of modelling, right?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so what was your experience with modelling then?
I think I was there for 2 years, and in the time I was there, I barely got any work.
Okay, why do you think that is?
In my personal opinion, I thought it was because I look different.
And what age was you? What age was you?
I was 16 at the time when I joined. And I think a lot of the people who did get work were like these tall, very skinny girls with like their long hair that was always straight.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the time, because I was quite curvy back then as well, so I think a lot of the time, like, my hair was a big issue in me getting work, kind of, because the company did a lot for hair. Like, a lot of the jobs were for hair companies. And a lot of the hair companies didn't know.
Like European hair, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of them didn't know, obviously, how to work with black hair. So I think that's why I didn't end up getting a lot of jobs.
Yeah. And what about yourself in terms of when you were young, working with your black hair? Because obviously that's something, because your friends, so the majority of your friends in school, maybe now I'm not quite sure, but in school specifically, were they white or?
Yeah.
So there's been a lot more different products that they could use. Everyone goes through stages of using stuff that you're ashamed of looking now, but how was your experience with the actual hair?
So my mum actually has like the Irish curl, so her hair's quite loose curl.
Right, okay.
So she wasn't experienced really looking after the black curl, because my hair has very tight curls, like I've got the afro curl.
Yeah.
Which in my area there's not a lot of black hair shops, so we ended up like having to go to like Longsight or places like that just to go shopping for the products. But she did well with my hair, considering that she'd not had much experience with this hair type before. But looking back on it, I wish like we'd done more research into it and got a bit more advice on how to look after my hair, really.
Yeah. I think culturally, I think parents, and I probably include my mum in this as well, have to take the responsibility of, it's not just, so if you're going to get with a person from a different race, I think it's important both sides to know what you're getting yourself into. And I don't mean just the person, I just mean if you're deciding to have children, it comes with, different hair products. It comes with definitely on the culture. Black Lives Matter. So the conversations that you're having with family members then, has it all been positive?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has been positive, because I think it's a thing that my mum's generation they don't really talk about a lot of the time. Yeah. So I think it has been helpful, because it's kind of like opened our eyes and stuff, because I've never spoken about my experiences, in life and at school with my mum. Because my mum she grew up in a racially diverse area. So for her personally, there wasn't a lot of racism towards her.
Where was she? Was she brought up then?
Whalley Range.
Oh, Whalley Range. Oh, right, okay, yeah.
So there's and she went to a mixed school as well. So there was a lot of different ethnicities, like where she lived and where she went to school. But I spoke to my auntie, and she said like, growing up, she experienced racism, which was weird because it's my mum's full sister. And she was saying that a lot of people used to call her half breed.
Mm-hmm. And how old your auntie? Sorry, did you say your auntie?
Yeah.
Yeah, so how old your auntie?
She's 2 years older than my mum, I think, or a year older than my mum.
Okay. How old your mum?
60. Well, my mum will be 60 next year.
Right, okay. I was about to say, because my mum's similar age, and my mum's 57. So yeah, if we're thinking when they were young, then I suppose it's going back to the original point that we're saying, man. Like, it's not acceptable to be a half breed or anything like that.
Yeah,
it's unheard of, and you're frowned upon if you was the mum or dad, especially especially the person that's black in them. They're the two parents as well, even more so. But then you get ridiculed for being with that black person, whether it being the dad or. So I'm guaranteed, in some way, shape, or form, your mum would have some stories to tell you that would be hard on the ears. They really would, especially not so much Wally Range. Well, you know what? Anywhere, to be honest with you, anywhere. London, because I suppose it was looked at. If we look at the Brixton riots, but even before that, it was terrible. My mum was in London. I was born in London, but I moved when I was really, really young. So to have that half breed image, fast forward to 2020, it's a lot different. But I really like what Black Lives Matter is covering. It's open up conversations to do with like you're saying with your family, like and being open. You said to me before that you haven't really had conversations about how you would feel in the past or what you've been doing now. Do you know what I mean? So I really like that. And I think it's really good to hear from a woman's perspective, and also a woman who's got black in her, but you wouldn't consider a person being black if you didn't know the features. So I think it's brilliant for you to come on here and actually say your piece. What's it like growing up in a mixed family?
I love it. Well, obviously when I was younger I didn't relate to it as much, but like now that I'm older, I love talking with my cousins about it, especially like we have a cousin group chat on WhatsApp and we've been talking about like a lot of different things and about people's experiences, you know, growing up, like experiences with the police and stuff like that, and my cousins have gone through.
Cousins, girls, boys, okay,
and that was hard to hear for me because obviously I didn't know anything about that when I was growing up. Like I didn't know what they'd been through, but I feel like I needed to hear it to know what they'd been through. And obviously mine was a very tame experience compared to theirs, because obviously they had like abuse from the police and stuff like that, but obviously I've never had that because I'm so pale. So in a way I do acknowledge that I do have a bit of white privilege because of the paleness of my skin, because I am quarter. But obviously in some things I'm gonna be like, people are gonna kind of be a bit funny towards me because of like my hair, or if they see me out with my mum or my family, like they may be a bit funny towards us because we've got a lot of different variants of melanin in my family. As well, because like I have black aunties and uncles, and then my mum and her sisters are half, and then you've got me and my brother who are like quarter. So we've got like a massive spectrum of all the different.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I was going to ask you that question actually. I've got that written down about. Do you feel like you've got white privilege? But yeah, is there any experiences where you've realised that at all, or is it just a thing that you've come to grips with through the Black Lives Matter?
I think, like, I don't think I ever acknowledged it before because it wasn't something that was like heavy on my mind, and like I'd never really talked about it before. But I think I do acknowledge that I have white privilege, because I know I do. Like I've never had to worry about, you know, being stopped by the police or just because of the colour of my skin, or or being called a racial slur by someone just because of the colour of my skin. Like I've never had to worry about that. But I have witnessed a lot of stuff like that. Like when I was on the bus to college once and a man was shouting at this black lady, telling her to go back to where she came from, but she was born here.
I love them ones. I love it, Alex. I love it when they say that, because if we really was to check what that person's actually saying going back to if we were looking at their heritage, and let's be clear, when you're saying go back, like if you're looking at their heritage and where they came from, you'd be challenging to thinking, well, actually, you wasn't originally from here as well. But it's a weird statement. I mean, government are not helping at all. I mean, let's take Windrush for example. Like it's almost comical with some of the stuff that they've got away with and still getting away with. I mean, didn't they release what they did, but during COVID, so it was all kind of hush. Do you know what I mean?
The funny thing is, the people that came were told to come to help build the economy back up after the war.
Of course.
So for them to like try and kick them back out, like it just doesn't make sense. Like we came to help you build your economy, and now you're telling us that we need to go back to where we came from. And a lot of the people won't even remember where they came from. Like they were very young when they came over, the children.
Yeah, man.
So they won't remember.
Yeah, it's a weird one, man. Especially when there was. I tell you what made it more real, because it's one of them where you see it, but you don't really know the ins and outs until you start doing a bit of research yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, there was this BBC documentary which got released during the height of all the protests and stuff. And it was on BBC, and it was like a story of an individual, a black guy who, who got cornered or told about the Windrush, that he had to go back. And it showed his story, and it was powerful. And after it showed like the statistics of the amount of people that got told to go back home and had to prove X, Y, and Z and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And no reparations have been given or anything like that, and it's still ongoing. And it's just disgraceful, man. Like you said, they got brought over here to boost the economy. But even then, they'll come over thinking it's the Queensland as well, because the representation of the UK for them guys that came over is that it's really, really good over here, and it's rich. Like you're rich.
Yeah, it's like the motherland for them, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then when it came over here, we're like, yo, it's not as good as we thought over here.
And it's funny with the Windrush thing, because the ones that did end up getting sent back, some of them actually died and never got justice, never got an apology, never got reparations, nothing. Like they ended up dying in a country that they probably don't even remember.
Yeah, man, it's rough. And they give you £1,000 when you get there.
That is nothing.
To start a new life. What the £1,000? Imagine trying to start your new life for £1,000.
I mean, what is that going to buy you?
Nothing. Maybe a couple of takeaways in it. But if you're gonna go back, oh man, I couldn't even believe it. It was like £1,000 to get given to start a new life. I could not believe it. I mean, I don't think no amount of money for the conditions and where the position to say you need to get off are acceptable. But in terms of money, wow, there was only £1,000. So it was kind of strange, man. It really was. I mean, when it comes to what would you like to see change then?
I think I do want the mixed race community to be part of the conversation more so, and I want it to be more, mainstream, because a lot of the time when you see, on the news or whatever, a lot of the time they're talking to like solely black people, like fully black people.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time the mixed race people are left out, but we do experience racism and stuff like that. So I think we need to be part of the conversation. We need to start talking more about our experiences.
Yeah. What so like, because when you are actually having when we're actually having conversations, if we're going with, let's say, work, for example, yeah. So whatever line of work you're in, it's a tough one to answer, and there's not really an answer for it. But what can businesses do you think, to introduce these conversations? Tough one,
I think for a start, the hiring process is terrible, because they will have like the name on, the CV, and if there's an African surname or, a distinctive surname that is related to a certain race, then they're going to be like, no, we don't want them. Or, it's just stuff like that. Or sometimes people are said to put pictures on there, or as soon as they interview them, it's like, no, they don't want them. They won't tell them that, but in their head, they know they won't hire them because of their race.
There's been studies as well with that, where they've done 2 CVs exactly the same. And I think one was like an African name versus like a traditional English name, like John Smith or something like that. And it showed it was favourable for that. But yeah, the hiring process. But you know what? The most common thing when it comes to the hiring process that comes up as like an argument is that the best person should get the job regardless of the color. So when it got introduced to say people of color, there has to be a certain percentage. I'm like, that's cool. That's deserved.
Yeah.
The white people, they'll go, no, that's not right. So they feel victimized and targeted to go, well, listen, I've done this job for 16 years. I should be getting, I believe I'm better for the job. Well, good. I'm glad you feel like that, because the amount of years prior to that, when black people or people of color have tried to get a job, and for whatever reason, they've not been given the job.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, yeah, cool. I reckon that's needed. And and white people are feeling victimized against it, thinking, oh, well, it's not fair. Wow. I love when I hear it's not fair, because if you go back in history, it hasn't been fair for years for people of color as well. So I think that's a really important thing with work. But the conversation, I don't know if you're having conversations at work or in your social life. You mentioned with your family. What about your friends?
Yeah, I've had like a few conversations with people like at work and stuff.
And so how did the conversation start? Is it something that you feel, did you present this, or was that something that got put out there?
It was probably me like bringing it up.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's something I'm quite passionate about, because I'm mixed race. But a lot of the people that I work with are white, and a lot of them don't seem to understand like certain aspects of it. Like they understand obviously that black people have been oppressed for years and all this, but a lot of they're all about, oh, why they like rioting, or all this, and a lot of them don't understand that if they're not gonna listen to us when we're peaceful, we need to make them listen by other means, by any means necessary.
Man. The famous words of Mr. X. But when it comes to the why they're rioting and all that sort of stuff, like, or violence, if you haven't took the time to realize why we're in this predicament in the first place, don't just then jump down the, well, why, when you don't understand why in the first place. Does that make sense? So you can't have an argument for something you don't really understand. Now, with the all lives matter, white lives matter stuff that comes up, and
don't get me started.
Listen, it's infuriating, because, of course, you can give so many metaphors about the all lives matter and how stupid it actually sounds, right? But, it's definitely just been used just as a hatred thing, to just go against Black Lives Matter. Like, no one's saying. I think in
people's heads, they think we're saying Black Lives Matter more.
Listen, but it's just no one's saying that.
It's like Black lives just want equality.
Listen,
that's all they're asking for.
The one thing we are looking for, and this is it: equality. That is it. And then if a white person says, I don't get it, I don't understand, or racism doesn't exist, that is white privilege, because you have never acknowledged it. Why? Because you've never had to have those difficult conversations with your children or your friends, or personally have experienced it. So what you can do is compartmentalize that and go, nah, I don't get it. That doesn't involve me. And that's white privilege. And that's the problem. If you say to a working class white person, white privilege, they lose their shit. Because they think,
oh, I'm not privileged, I'm poor.
I've worked everything, and rightly so. I'm not saying that you don't experience struggle. That's not what I'm saying. You're privileged because of your whiteness. The system is built around whiteness.
You don't experience extra struggle from your colour.
God, it's purely from the colour of your skin, and it's purely through the system, the lack of education around other races. I mean, if you're looking at the UK, it's such a multicultural, rich place. And if you're looking at the system and education, it doesn't represent the people that are in the UK. Yeah. So it's just like you scratch your head, and the more and more you dig deeper and deeper, and you read about Black history, and specifically Black British history, it's so rich, and it goes way before the 1950s, which a lot of people think 1950s Black people come, and then that was it. Wow, it's so much more than
school, history is so whitewashed.
Oh God, yeah.
When I did history at GCSE, all we learnt about was a bit of the war, how the war started. We didn't learn like nothing about slavery, nothing about, you know, the black colonies that were thriving before we invaded. We never learned any of that. We didn't learn about black inventors, nothing.
But of course, you'll touch upon slavery, or it might just be like, oh yeah, there's a bit of slavery, but you know what we did is prosper from that. So if you look at our economy, it's so rich. But why was it rich? Because it was we was terrible.
Yeah.
We was we was terrible at the things that we did. But I think we need to acknowledge that and show that. Like, look, that is real history. And I feel like if it was education, if there was a lot of education, I think that will change a lot of people's views. Not everyone's, because of course, no one's born a racist, and it starts at home, and then breeds even more when throughout your adulthood and experiences. But an educational piece of even knowing about white privilege. I mean, the term white privilege has come up more in the past couple of months than it's ever done in my entire life.
Yeah.
And conversations are starting to happen. So I'm glad that it's starting to happen, man.
I think in a way, coronavirus has actually, sounds bad, but it's helped the movement because more people are not doing anything, so they're paying more attention to it. Yeah, a lot more people are speaking up about it.
Yeah, because they can do. Because social media, you can share, like, post, everything.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you. Since Black Lives Matter, is anyone that you've had to disassociate yourself with?
There's a lot of people on my Facebook that I didn't realise how racist they were, or how, what's the word? How ignorant they were. And obviously, when people post stuff, I'd comment on it, try and change their mind. For some people you can't, but you've got to kind of try and educate the people. And if obviously someone can't be helped, then you just have to remove them, because I don't want to see that negativity. For me, I want to try and help educate people, but I also don't want to have to put up with people who are going to be racist or just be purposefully ignorant and not educate themselves.
And I think you always face that challenge, of, do I educate this person? And then I have a battle with myself where, why should I have to educate him? Because racism is not a black person's problem. Never has been, never will be. It's a white person's problem in terms of they need to come to terms with not being racist. We'll always experience, from the day you're born to the day you die, some sort of racism in the UK. And that is a hard thing to say, especially, I've not been blessed with children yet, but if you have kids, when I have kids, it's going to be the same conversation to have. Regardless if the kids are fair-skinned, black, white, whatever, still conversations need to have. And I think even more so if you are white, because that means you acknowledge that there is a difference in this world. But what a lot of parents, I've had conversations with some of my friends actually who've got a quarter black as well.
Yeah.
And I'm having conversations with them where I've asked the question, say, what age would you speak about race? Because I can't speak because I'm not a parent, so it's a question to ask. And they were kind of on the lines of, they don't want to ruin their innocence, which I completely get. I just think, for me personally, I think it's important to have that conversation as early as possible.
Yeah, there are ways you can talk about it too.
There is.
That are not going to be like, oh yeah, black people are getting killed, you need to be nice to your friends. Like, you don't need to tell them all that. You just need to, say, treat everyone how you want to be treated, and treat each other with respect, regardless of who they are, what their race is. You just need to, I think children do need to be taught from an early age, because children are more moldable kind of when they're young.
Of course,
so
because you're like a sponge, aren't you?
Yeah, you can teach them when they're young to respect people. It's like anything, they learn easier when they're young. Yeah,
and if that gets done, and again going back to the educational piece, then that makes this transition, this journey, these conversations that people are having easy. The statistics are going up, and I might be wrong in here, but I think it's like by 2050 or 2030, I think it was, that mixed race is going to up by 30 or 40%.
Yeah.
which makes sense anyway because a lot of mixed race people get mixed race and everyone's
Mhm.
having interracial relationships. It's almost a norm, or is the norm in the UK.
Yeah.
It's not so much segregated at all. It's considered as normal. So of course that's going to go up and go up. And of course, if that's going to go up, then there is going to be more quarter black people like yourself.
Mhm.
There is going to be more of these conversations that, that have to come around where the experiences that you will have, although you have said that you will have white privilege, but, there's still this black heritage in you. And I think it's such a powerful thing because if you've got black heritage in you, but the majority of your heritage is white, then it
Mhm.
still shows that the black culture is still imprinted and important
Mhm.
to yourself. Because not everyone thinks like that, though, Alex. You could get
Yeah.
the other side, like you said when you were in school. You kind of disassociated yourself with your blackness, and that was because of going around the things that were going around you, weren't they? And it's
Yeah.
sad, really, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
that's who you are, and you've kind of blocked that away or compartmentalized that when you was younger. So it is, and Luke, who I spoke to in the previous episode, experienced the same thing as well. And I think a lot of mixed race people go through this: am I black enough? Am I white enough?
Yeah. They don't fit in with either side. Kind of. They're just a bit
Yeah,
like, I'm in the middle.
yeah. It's
I don't
interesting
fit
though
in.
because I've never really had a conversation with a person who's quarter black in this much depth, and especially a
Mhm.
woman as well. So, like for me, because I suppose when you're half and half, it's not easier. Yeah, I suppose it's easier to say I'm half white and half black, but I've never really got into, I suppose, your mind of what you like when you're younger or now. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it's an interesting concept because I know my godkids now are quarter black,
Mhm.
but physically, some of them you just pass as white, like hair, like your standard things.
Yeah, I think for my brother as well, he kind of passes more as white because his obviously a lot of guys do have short hair.
Mm.
So my brother's like got quite short hair, so you can't really tell if he's mixed race. Like most of the time, it's with my hair when I wear it out, you can tell.
Mm.
Apart from that, I don't think you would know. So
Mm.
my brother kind of passes for white a lot of the time as well.
Yeah, and is your brother on the same journey as you? Slightly different? Like what's
Well, my brother's actually disabled as well,
right?
so he
Okay.
has cerebral palsy. So he's kind of got both sides of
Yeah.
the discrimination kind of thing. So he's more of an advocate for the discrimination against disabilities,
Mm.
and then I'm trying to be more of an advocate for the Black Lives Matter and the
Yeah.
mixed race community.
Yeah, and I think it's all good. It's brilliant what it's brilliant what the black community are doing in terms of standing up and supporting Black Lives Matter as we should because it involves
Mm-hmm.
us. It's even better to see white people actually standing up and saying something, and I
Yeah.
think it's because we've been known about it. We've always known about it, but
Yeah.
to see white people checking white people on what they've said, I think it's brilliant. I really do.
But then sometimes you get people disagree with someone about a certain thing and they go, "Oh, you're a racist," and they're just throwing the word around, and that's annoying to me because you're not using the word in the right context. You're not thinking about how you're using it just because someone disagrees with you, going, "Oh, you're a racist."
Yeah,
But
well,
it's not always the case.
it's not always the case. There's a couple of ways to look at this for me. Now, the term being racist for certain individuals could mean only one thing, but it's such a diverse word. So,
Mm-hmm.
me calling someone the N word, or sorry, a white person calling someone an N word, obviously that's racism. That's
Yeah.
in your face racism. But there's systemic, it's institutional, and it's the things that you will only really see or observe that could be considered racist. Now, it's a shame when sometimes we'll throw it out when it's not there, but at the same time, because it's thrown out there that much, people think that they're not being racist. But
Mm-hmm.
and I said this last time, it's so easy to say a bad person is racist versus a good person's a racist. So, you know, you could get a person who's really nice in the community or got a really nice job, has got great friends, the person's got a nice character. So to call that person racist is absurd.
I feel like it's getting watered down though, the amount of time I've seen it being used. Like, it's just they're kind of losing the meaning of the word and not using it in the right context when it needs to be used when someone is being racist, whether it's overtly racist or just kind of like, oh, I'm a little bit racist, but I'm not.
Yeah. And I think when the term is used, to actually listen to the reasons why, because like I said, if it's like I'm a white person and I'm saying I've never said the N-word and never will.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, if a black person walks down the street across the road, so what is your reason for that? Well, I just don't trust him. All right, so that is racist. Oh, it's not. Do you know what I mean? So it's like a lot of people see this word and are afraid of being racist. So what white people do is attach themselves to any type of culture, friends, events, or anything that they've been to.
Yes.
To prove that I am not racist.
The best one is, my neighbour is black, I'm not racist.
And you know what the most upsetting one is, Alex, that I hear, and I have heard, is that my kids are black, or my boyfriend, or my husband, or my girlfriend, or, you know, someone as close as their kid. My kids are black, so I can't be racist. And including my mum in this conversation, when it comes to parents who are white, who have mixed race, black children or whatnot, they feel sometimes that they've got a pass because they've got black children.
Yeah.
Like they don't need to educate themselves. My personal opinion, yes, you do, even more. You might have stood with your mum or your dad during these hard times, you know, but you still need to educate yourself. You're not just because you might love the culture, you might love everything about the culture. You might love the music, you might love the clothes, the whatever it is. But when it comes to being educational, then you don't know nothing.
Yeah.
So I always say the term, and Black Lives Matter, have experienced this, where you have a lot of white people that love the culture, but don't represent the people.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So
that's a massive one for me. They love the culture, but they don't want the people.
Yes.
That's a lot of the time.
You don't want equality, but you know what? I'll love the culture.
I love your food and I love your music. I'm not sure about your life though.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if I want everything equal, to be honest with you. Which is, and it's so true. The culture is really loved, and you know, and you can go even deeper with when the culture is then used in a different race, let's say white people, like a rapper or a singer, and they use the black culture, and then they go to number one. And this is my just personal experience of seeing it. You know, when you're getting black culture used by white people, it tends to be go pop, even more so. Well, I don't know what the reason that is for, but it's very, very strange.
Because of the face that's posted on it is more.
Yeah, it's more palatable.
Globally acceptable.
Yeah, it's more palatable. It's
like I was reading a post, about Rosa Parks saying that she actually wasn't the first person to boycott. There was a woman a few months before who did it, but she was 15 and she was pregnant and she was darker skinned, so obviously they weren't going to use her as the poster child or the bus boycott because they wanted to make it more palatable. They ended up using, the paler.
Yeah, and that's the thing that has to change, and that's being embedded with all of us. The person's too dark. I'll never understand, and I've got friends who have had heated conversations about if I was to describe a girl and I said, oh, it's a black girl, and that person has then ripped that person off straight off. I'll never understand that, because if you've seen a person and don't like them, fair enough.
Yeah.
I will never write off a person based on the color of the skin without even looking at them. And some of my friends are like that. They will say, "No, I don't really want to date a black girl." When I think that's what's wrong, and I think I'm gonna get a black woman on here as well, because the struggle's even more real. Because not only are you dark skinned, but you're a woman as well. So it's like a double oppression.
Yeah, it's like a lot of when I was in high school, and you were starting to like date people, kind of thing, and a lot of the time the guys would prefer to date a woman who was fully white with long straight hair, and she just looked fully white. And I struggled with that because obviously I don't have long straight hair. I'm never gonna have long straight hair.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a bit difficult for me in that aspect, because guys were more attracted to the white girls with the long straight hair and whatnot.
It's what they see. It's what they see. Media and everything like that. And of course, I suppose when you're going back to Stockport, you said that the majority is going to be a white area anyway. So probability is, unless you're the token person, then you're going to get with another white person. I suppose that's the luxury sometimes of, like, going back to where your mum said was in Whalley Grange, of different areas and different cultures who experience different things. I was brought up in a predominantly white area, but then I moved a couple of times, but like a predominantly Asian area, which is next door. And then in terms of my friends growing up, it was a mixture of Asian, white, black, or anything like that. So I had that. And in college, it was more so mixed race, black, Asian, and then kind of just stayed from there. Do you know what I mean? So it's different, man. It really is. So obviously when we put this, what message then, if I was to end this, like what message would you want to get across? What would you want to get out of this?
That everyone is part of the conversation, not just people who are mixed, not just people who are black, not just people who are of ethnic minorities. White people need to be part of the conversation as well, because the only way we can make change is if we all do it together. That's the only way it's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think conversations need to happen in school, education, and work. And most difficult one's family, especially with mixed. If I'm going with my mixed, so my mum's white and my dad's black, from a mum's side, the older generation can remember the 50s. They can remember when black people started to come over.
It's like my a lot of my mum's sisters, all my mum's sisters have married white men, so all their children are mixed. Not one of my aunties or uncles have married like a black man, which I find really great, that they like have interracial marriages and they've got mixed children and they're not afraid to be mixed couples.
Yeah, man. I think it's definitely needed, and conversations have started like this. Conversations happen like this, people connecting where we'd never connect, because prior to Black Lives Matter, me and you would never be speaking, would never cross paths, because there'd be no reason to. You're in Stockport, I'm in Leeds, I'm 10 years older than you. We're just never going to cross paths. So I just want to say thank you, and giving me the opportunity to have this chat, man.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for